Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. If you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. For today's tutorial, we're making a sweater. For this make, we paired a drop shoulder design with the most luxurious honeycomb sleeves. Throw in a wide neck collar, and you're left with the snazziest crochet sweater that blends old with new perfectly. Speaking of, if you're looking for more modern takes on crochet classics, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work. But I used a total of 500 grams of yarn, and that's 1,150 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 6mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCD DIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you'd rather go to a museum or a botanical garden. Now, as much as I love gardens, I think I'd have to choose museums. Details for the giveaway down below. We are using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet. This tutorial is made for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 6mm hook and start off by making a chain that starts at the top of our shoulder down to where we'd like the bottom of this top to be, so you can make this cropped or full length. I would actually like for mine to be roughly in the middle, so I'm going to stop at my hips. I'm going to start by making a chain of 75, that's roughly 19 inches or 48 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started on our row 1. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. From here, yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert with our first half double. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's 1 half double. Let's do one more. Yarn over, into that next chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. We are back. Our row 1 is complete. Now for the body portion, it's all going to be back loop half double crochet rows. So to get that started, we're all going to chain 2 and flip. To do a back loop double crochet, we're all going to yarn over. Insert our hook into that first stitch from our previous row's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Then pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That is our first back loop double crochet. Let's do this again. Yarn over, into that next stitch's back loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's basically it. From here, we're going to continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. Then, at the end of the row, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and repeat. So far for this portion, we should all have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. What we're going to do is continue to repeat our back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases until we have a portion that can reach 2 inches past the tip of our shoulders in towards the base of the neck until we are 2 inches away from the base of the neck. And then I'll meet you back right after an even number row so we can get started on the neckline. We are back and our shoulder portion is complete. Now I have a total of 12 rows. This width is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to get started on the neckline. So that's going to be fairly simple. What we're all going to do is insert our stitch marker into any stitch that we have that's roughly 2 inches beneath the base of our neck. So I've inserted my stitch marker into the 17th stitch from the top that is opposite from where our hook should be, and that's roughly 4.5 inches or 12 centimeters. Now from here, since we should all be along the bottom, we're all going to flip our work and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we reach our stitch marker. We are back. We made our way all the way up with our first neckline row, which is just a half double crochet row till we reach our stitch marker. Now for the rest of the neckline, we're just going to continue on with more back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases, working our way across our neck. So we're starting 2 inches past the base of our neck. We're going to work across our chest until we're 2 inches past the other side of the base of our neck. And then I'll meet you guys back along the top so we can work straight into the shoulder from there. All right, so we are back with our neckline. Now I have a total of 27 rows. My width is roughly 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to finish up with our second shoulder. So since we all should have ended along the top, what we're all going to do is make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we got started on our neckline. So for those of you that have my numbers, I skipped a total of 17 stitches. So for me, I made a chain 17. As you guys can see, it's already finished up. And then from here, we're just going to do our back loop half double crochet rows with absolutely no increases and no decreases for the same amount of rows that we have for the first one. So once we have our chain, we're just going to get started on the first half double crochet together. So what we're going to do is block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. That's our turning chain. Then yarn over, preparing for a half double. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert with our first half double crochet, pull through all 3. Then from here, put 1 half double crochet into every chain. Then once we reach the body portion, we're going to continue on with our back loop half double crochets into every stitch. Now we should have the same amount of stitches as our first shoulder portion. And like I said, just continue to repeat our back loop half double crochet row with no increases and no decreases until we have the same amount of rows. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alrighty, so we are back. The entirety of my front panel is complete. I have a total of 39 rows. My width is roughly 16.5 inches or 42 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to be making a back panel that is exactly the same. So once you guys have both of your panels completed, I will meet you guys back so we can seam up our shoulders together. All right, so we are back. Both of our panels are complete. Now we're ready to seam our shoulders. So first things first, we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, and we're going to do a single crochet row. So what we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So once when our hook is in through both corners, we're going to yarn over and pull through everything. Then starting by finding our first side row within the front panel, this is mine right here, I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook, find that same top loop within the back panel, insert my hook in through there, and we're going to single crochet around everything. And let's do that again. This is my following side row. Now that this is my second side row, I'm going to be doing 2 single crochets into there. So find that top loop, insert, find the next top loop within the back panel, insert, and single crochet once. And we are going to be doing a second one, so go ahead and insert your hook into that same top loop within the front and the back panel. This second one should be a little bit easier to work into since everything should already be gathered, and single crochet. Let's do this again. Find the next side row within the front panel, insert into that top loop. Find the next side row within the back panel, find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. And then to do it again, next top loop within the front panel, insert, next top loop within the back panel, insert, starting with 1 single crochet, and then a second single crochet will be worked into that same stitch. Continue doing this until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alrighty, so now that our shoulders are all seamed up, we're going to work on the collar next. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning all of the seams that we did for the shoulders are now flipped along the inside. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into any one of the stitches that we have along our neckline, and we're going to start with single crochets into every stitch. And then once we reach the side rows, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, kind of like how we did for the shoulders. So start with 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back when we reach our first side row, just to remind you how we're going to be doing those. So we are back. We put 1 single crochet into every stitch. We're now on our first side row, and we're just going to be working into those together. So as a refresher, we're all going to start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert with a single. I'm going to find my next side row and insert in with 2 singles. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way across, then continue on with our single crochet row all the way around. Slip stitch into that chain space. We don't have any more stitches left to work into. Then I'll meet you back. Alrighty, we are back. Our single crochet row is complete. I did slip stitch into that chain space, and as you guys can see, I also made a chain the length that I'd like my collar to be. Now I'd like for mine to be roughly 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters, so I made a chain 15, and now we can do our following slip stitch row together. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our slip stitch row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then into that chain that we blocked off, the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. So we're going to insert our hook. There we go. And when we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Again, into that next chain, insert, yarn over, and gently pull through both. And from here, we're going to continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. And as a really quick tip, we do want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row is going to be way too tight to work into. Now that we put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're now going to connect it into the base. So how that's going to work is finding that next available stitch into the base. We're going to slip stitch into there to close off this row. And remember that that slip stitch into the base does not actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into there, still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. Then from here, we're going to be doing back loop slip stitches. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, not into any of the slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert into that back loop, then yarn over, gently pull through everything. Again, into that next stitch's back loop, insert, gently pull through everything, and that's it. We're going to continue this to reach the end of the row. When we do, chain 1, flip your work, and then put 1 back loop slip into every stitch again, and then I'll meet you back at the base just to connect it once more. So we are back. Now that we have our first 1, 2, 3 rows nearly completed, we're just going to connect it into the base together, and that will be done the same way that we did our previous rows. So just find that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch, still doesn't count as a stitch, and then just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, still doesn't count as a stitch, flip our work, and again put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam it all up together. Alrighty, so we made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to do our outside loop slip stitch seam. So to do this seam, what we're going to do is make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, meaning all of our shoulder seams are still along the inside. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through everything. Then what we're going to do is find that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Next, find that first stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. That is our first outside loop slip stitch seam. Again, find that next stitch into the front panel, insert only into the front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Now this seam is supposed to make it look like we have another back loop slip stitch row. But we're just going to continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so now that everything is all seamed up, we're ready to get started on our side seam and then our sleeve. So first things first, we're all going to make sure that our work is now flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam that we have for the shoulder is along the outside. Then we're all going to start by inserting our stitch marker into any stitch for the width that we'd like for our armhole to be. So if you would like for your armhole to be a little bit wider, insert your stitch marker lower, or if you would like for it to be a little bit more snug, insert it higher. I want mine to be pretty comfortable, so I inserted mine into the 25th stitch from the top. That's roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now from here, we are all going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to do our seam till we reach our stitch marker. Now we are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and start with a chain 1 to secure. And we're just going to single crochet into both the front and back panel at the same time. So find that first stitch into the front panel, insert. First stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet around everything. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert. Next stitch into the back panel, insert into there, and single crochet, and continue this until we reach our stitch marker. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. So we are back. Everything is all seamed up, now ready to get started on the length of our sleeve. So first things first, we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning all of the seams that we just did are now along the inside. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam within our armhole. Then we're all going to make a chain that is in multiples of 3 for the length that we'd like for our sleeve to be. Now you can make this as short or as long as you'd like, but keep in mind that we are going to have a cuff as well. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 48, and that's roughly 14 inches or 36 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our first row, which is going to be a single crochet row. So we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and from here continue with 1 single crochet into every chain until we reach the base. We should all end up with the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. We are back. Our first row is pretty much complete. We're now just going to connect it into the base. So connecting it into the base is going to be done pretty much the same way that we connected our collar into the base over here. So we're all going to make sure the work is still flipped right side out, right side up, and we're going to make sure that we're inserting our hook clockwise or to the left because the stitches that we're going to do for the sleeve are not reversible. Then in order to work our way up to our row 2, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. None of those slip stitches into the base actually count as a stitch. We're going to flip our work and get started on our honeycomb stitch. Now getting started on our honeycomb stitch, it is going to be a 3-stitch repeat. So getting this started, we're all going to start by putting 2 single crochets into the first 2 stitches. So making sure we're not counting into any of those stitches into the base. We're going to start by finding that first stitch and insert with 1 single, and then into that next stitch with another single. Now the third stitch is going to be a double crochet 5 together, all within that same stitch. So let's do this together. We're all going to yarn over, insert our hook into that following stitch, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, pull through the first 2. Again, yarn over into that same stitch, insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 for 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over into that same stitch for the 3rd time, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, insert our hook into that same stitch again for the 4th time, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 for 5 loops on our hook, then once more, yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch for a 5th time, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. There we go, for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Now when we all have those 6 loops on our hook, all we're going to do is yarn over and pull through all 6 of those loops. And then from here it's going to be a repeat, so 2 single crochets and then another double crochet 5 together. So when we're doing our following single crochet, this stitch that we just did is going to kind of pop out. And when it pops out, we do want to make sure that it is popping out away from us since we are working clockwise and we want these stitches to be seen. And that's it. We're just going to continue to repeat these 3 stitches. So let's do the next few sets together. We just did our first single crochet, so let's do our second. And then another double crochet 5 together, all into that same stitch, but a little bit faster now. So yarn over, into that following stitch, we're going to insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, into that same stitch for a 2nd time, pull through 2, yarn over, into that same stitch for a 3rd time, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 for the 4th time, and then once more, yarn over, same stitch, pull through 2. At this point, we should all have 6 loops on our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we have all 6, we're all going to yarn over, pull through all 6. And that's it. Let's do one more set, but quicker. Into that next stitch, 1 single crochet. Into the stitch right after that, another single crochet. Then a double crochet 5 together. Yarn over, insert, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, pull through 2. yarn over, insert, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull through 2, and we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 6, and that's it. We're now going to continue to repeat our 3 previous stitches till we reach the end of the row, and I'll meet you guys back when we reach the end of the row. Alrighty, so we are back. Our row 2 is complete. We've made our way all the way down with our honeycomb stitches. The last stitch should have been one of those bubbles, and now we're going to single crochet back because remember, our honeycomb stitch texture isn't reversible. So all we're going to do from here is chain 1 and flip. We're all just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. So just into that top stitch, on top of that little bubble, 1 single crochet, then 1 single crochet into every stitch. That's basically it. We're going to continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way back down towards the base, and then I'll meet you back. But a really quick tip, we should all still end up with the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. We've made our way down and our row 3 is complete. Now we're just going to connect it into the base. Now remember, it is going to be connected into the base the same way as the collar, so just find that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch to close off our row 3. Then to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. Now when it comes to doing our honeycomb stitch, we want to make sure that our bubbles are staggered from the bubbles from our previous row. So what we're going to do to get started on our row 4 is start this one off with our double crochet 5 together. So yarn over, finding the first stitch from our previous row, not any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now our double crochet 5 together is going to be the same, so just to do this a little bit quicker. First stitch, pull through 2. First stitch, pull through 2. First stitch, pull through 2. And first stitch, pull through 2 for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 6. And it's still going to be 2 single crochets after every bubble that we do. So there's our first, there's our second, and then from here, a repeat of our 3 previous stitches. So a double crochet 5 together into that next stitch, 2 single crochets, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. We are back. We have just finished up our first 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Now from here, it's just going to be a repeat of these 4 rows with no increases and no decreases, so we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. So just as a refresher, every odd number row is going to be a single crochet row, and then every even number row is going to be our honeycomb stitch row. So basically just these little bubbles. If you guys need timestamps for any of these rows, they will be linked in the description. But either way, just go ahead and get the sleeve finished up, and then I'll meet you back to seam it all together. We are back. We have just finished up the entirety of our sleeve. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it together. Now, as you guys can see, I have actually already seamed my sleeve up, but this is going to be the same seam that we did for the sides, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. It is going to be a single crochet seam. So first things first, make sure that your work is flipped wrong side out, meaning all of our detail is along the inside. Then we're going to single crochet into both the front and the back panel, making our way all the way down till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back to get started on the cuff. So now that our sleeve is all seamed up, the next thing we're going to do is our cuff. So first things first, we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the edge of our sleeve. I would suggest into one of our side single crochet rows. So once when our hook is into place, we're all going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now this part is going to be pretty simple to do. It just might feel a little funky because we have these bubbles along the edge of our sleeve. So what we're going to do is just single crochet into that same side single crochet row that we're currently in. Then we're going to find our next single crochet. So basically it's just skip over that next bubble and then into that next little gap that we have in between our bubbles. We're going to insert our hook in through there and single crochet. And if your bubble kind of collapses in like this, it's fine. Go ahead and just pop it out. Again, finding our next side single crochet row. This is mine right here. Insert with a single. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. We are back. Our single crochet row is complete. Everything fits nicely. And now what we're going to do is we're all going to make a chain the length that we like for our cuff to be. Now this cuff is actually going to be exactly the same way that we did our collar, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. I'd like for my cuff to be a tad bit longer, so roughly 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain 17. Then just back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, connecting it into the base, which is that single crochet row that we just did, the same way that we did for the collar. Once we have that completed, I will meet you guys back so we can seam it all up together. We have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it up together. So this is going to be the same seam that we did for the collar, so just to talk you guys through it, we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to insert our hook into both the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and just to do the first, find that first stitch into the front panel, insert, find that first stitch into the back panel, then insert into that back loop, then yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Alright, so we are back. Our cuff is all seamed up, and we actually did repeat everything we did here on the other side, and we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Check us out on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!